Welcome back, dear wanderers of the heart, to the corner of the internet where we don't skim headlines, we live inside them. You're tuned to Turkish series Stars, the place where stories breathe and where we explore not just what happened, but why it matters to the soul. Tonight, we are stepping past the flash of spotlights and the noise of red carpets. Tonight is about something fragile, real, and gloriously human, a man's inner shift that no one thought he would show. If you believe love can redraw the boundaries of a life, pull your chair closer. Before we open the door to this confession, make sure you're subscribed to Turkish series Stars. If you want to support the storytelling we craft here, tap the join button and become part of our inner circle. Your likes keep this heartbeat steady, and your comments are the stories after the story. Now, prepare yourselves, because Erkan Meriç has chosen to speak in a way few expected, and the aftershocks are still being felt. For years, Erkan has been a riddle wrapped in poise. To audiences, he's the magnetic lead who doesn't need to say much to say everything, the professional who carries interviews like a perfectly tailored suit. He's always kept a polite distance between his inner world and the public gaze. He could guide a conversation about craft, about discipline, about roles and technique, but rarely about the contours of his own heart. That is why the events of recent days didn't just make headlines, they altered his public silhouette. He didn't merely sit for an interview, he opened a door and invited the world inside. What was scheduled as a straightforward promotional talk about a new project and personal changes suddenly took on a different temperature the moment the cameras started rolling. You could feel it in the room, a softness like the hush before rain. When the topic drifted toward fatherhood, this is where many stars serve a safe phrase about responsibility or legacy. But Erkan did something else. He let the practiced mask slip. He spoke not from the script he's mastered, but from the trembling place underneath. While talking about being a father, his steady voice, the one directors trust and fans recognize, suddenly carried a grain of uncertainty. His eyes, often sharp as stage lights, grew damp. In full view, the man who built an image of stillness bowed to a feeling bigger than his defenses. And then came the sentence that has echoed everywhere since. He didn't say that love arrived just because he became a parent. He said he finally understood it when he watched the mother of his child holding their daughter. In that slender moment, he recognized the shape of a love he'd only known in theory. He wasn't just naming fatherhood. He was naming Hazal Subaşı. According to those close to them, that emotion wasn't an impulse. It was the crest of a wave that has been building quietly, day by day, year by year, as Hazal sculpted space for tenderness around him. During the interview, Erkan admitted with an honesty that hushed the room that Hazal taught him how to perceive with his heart, not only with his eyes. Imagine that confession in our world, where many men are trained to armor their feelings. He spoke of learning to love by watching her, by the gentleness in her hands, by the patient way she soothed their little girl, by the look she wore when the room was chaos and she was calm. It wasn't grand speeches that transformed him, it was her daily grace. He explained that she didn't simply bring a child into his life. She gave him a mirror, and for the first time he saw a softer version of himself reflected back. That's not a fairy tale, that's work and humility and the guts to be raw. And it resonated, not because it was glamorous, but because it was true in a way we all recognize. I want to hand the mic to you, the Turkish series Stars family. We talk about love like it's an instinct, but what if love is also a skill learned in the right hands? Have you ever had someone, partner, friend, even a child, who taught you to access feelings you didn't realize you were allowed to have? Who cracked your armor gently and showed you what was underneath? Who was your Hazal? Share your stories in the comments. We read them, and they deepen our understanding of the people we follow. As if the interview weren't enough, an image arrived that put everything into color. It wasn't a staged magazine shot or a stolen paparazzi snap. It looked like a private moment someone cherished enough to keep, and then decided to share. In it, Erkan is crouched in a garden scattered with flowers, laughing with his daughter as if the world has paused just to make room for their game. The colors feel warmer than daylight. Behind them, on a bench, sits Hazal, smiling like she knows the secret of peace. The caption was spare and precise, a single thank you to love's teacher. The photo spread like wildfire not because of the names tagged, but because it felt complete, like a painting of a life that has found its center. In the days after the interview, another detail captured fans' hearts. Erkan appeared at a public event wearing his usual effortless elegance, but there was something new on his wrist, a small woven bracelet, the kind you can only receive, never buy. It was childlike in its imperfections, full of color, and so unapologetically handmade that it drew the eye more than any luxury watch ever could. When asked, he didn't dodge. He smiled, the kind of smile that folds the edges of a person's face into sincerity, and said it was a gift from his daughter, given on the day he told her she was his hero. That bracelet isn't an accessory, it's a declaration. The watch keeps time. The bracelet keeps meaning. And by setting it against a tailored sleeve, he told the world that father outranks star. On social media, the conversation continued. Erkan posted a story, a black background with plain white text. That read, in essence, that fatherhood isn't a lesson one delivers, but an education one receives. He credited the two women who remade him. There was no need to spell out who they were. The message elevated both Hazal and their daughter as co-authors of his transformation, and it put to rest the old whispers that distance had crept into their home. If anything, the story felt like a vow in public. With openness comes speculation, and the rumor mills did not idle. Whispers began that Erkan and Hazal were seen visiting a secluded estate along the Aegean coast, the kind of place where the sea remembers every promise it has ever heard. The idea is not of a spectacle, but of a ceremony in nature's company, olive trees leaning in, salt air carrying laughter, only the closest of the close in attendance. Neither has confirmed it, and yet Erkan's newfound candor makes the idea feel not just possible, but almost inevitable. The Aegean, with its patience and history, would be a fitting witness for a love that has evolved from spark to shelter. And the story deepens. A source close to the couple says Erkan is writing. Not a tell-all, not revenge on rumor, but a quiet book about how he crossed a bridge from fear to devotion. It is said to map the journey from a man uncertain about fatherhood to a partner who discovered his anchor by surrendering to tenderness. A tribute, the source hinted, to the two people who restructured his soul. Imagine such a book from a leading man known for restraint, a text that doesn't chase scandal, but chooses vulnerability. It would be less a memoir than a love letter to growth, a guide for anyone who wonders if it's too late to soften. Would you read it? Are we ready for a different kind of celebrity story, the kind that doesn't flash, but lingers? And what are your thoughts about a private Aegean ceremony? Does it feel right for them at this stage of their lives? Tell us below. At Turkish series stars, we believe these arcs of personal courage matter more than any weekend box office number. The interview's final minutes brought perhaps the most unforgettable exchange. When asked to define what Hazal means to him in a single sentence, Erkan hesitated. The silence carried a weight you could feel through the screen. He looked down, breathed, and then thanked her for refusing to let go when he didn't know how to hold on, for teaching him a language he'd never learned, for shaping the man he has become. It wasn't performance. It was gratitude distilled to its simplest form. What followed online was less a trend than a wave. The phrase "Thank you Hazal" began appearing everywhere, not as a publicity slogan but as a chorus of personal testimonies. People wrote about partners who stayed, about friends who waited, about children who taught them gentleness. Colleagues chimed in, too. A former co-star remarked that the tenderness between Erkan and Hazal cannot be manufactured. A director who recently worked with him observed that it feels as if he has found his center and started acting from it rather than toward it. As he left the studio where all of this unfolded, Erkan offered a parting thought that lingers still. He said he never expected his greatest strength to come from a small hand that calls him dad and a woman who showed him that feelings aren't fires to avoid, but lights to follow. That line, simple and true, completes the portrait of a man who has traveled from the head to the heart and decided to stay. So who is Erkan now? Not just the face on a poster or the steady presence in a primetime slot. He is a father measuring time in bedtime stories and bracelets rather than minutes in marquees. He is a partner who has learned to see through the lens Hazal offered him, one attentive gesture at a time. This is not merely a romance, it is a study in devotion, in learning, in the courage to grow when the world expects you to pose. We will be here for what comes next, whether it's vows spoken beside the sea or pages bound into a quiet book that carries his gratitude in ink. If this journey moved you, tap that like so we can continue to bring these human moments to light. Subscribe to Turkish series Stars to stay with us as we follow the paths of the people you love to watch. And if you want an even closer seat, the join button is right there waiting. Thank you for spending this time with us. May each of us find, or be, the teacher who makes love less of a mystery and more of a practice. Until we meet again, keep listening for the stories that change us, and keep believing that tenderness is not a weakness but the finest kind of strength.